This will bring us to a very important question. What number can I pick? How to smartly pick numbers, because that's very important. Okay. So picking a number when you have a problem, to better and easily understand it, you can substitute. Can you guys see the screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. You can substitute a specific number in for a variable, like what we did with the problem with pennies, nickels, and dimes. We substituted a specific number. In this case, it was 2 instead of the variable, the x. Now, what really is important is choosing a number that satisfies the given conditions. So if you have a condition, you need to pick a number in a smart way. So these are some just guidelines for picking numbers. You try to pick a simple number, but not too simple. What do I mean by this? Well, you need to avoid picking the 0. You need to avoid picking 1, but 2 would be a good choice. So if you choose 2, that would make sense. Now, sometimes numbers will appear in the problem. So you want to avoid picking such numbers. So in our case, like, don't pick number 15, for example. It's one of the choices. It will make the answer like, extra large. And if you have to pick like 2 or more numbers, if you have like 3 variables, you try to make them all different. Like, don't pick the same numbers or similar numbers for different variables. Now, sometimes when you pick numbers, this will only allow you to eliminate a couple of answer choices, not all the answer choices. So, because you pick a number, this is a very important caveat, a very important warning, that you don't just choose the first answer that comes out to the correct answer. Because sometimes multiple answers come out correct, and you need to pick a new number and start again, right? But what you will notice is sometimes picking a number would be the best scenario to answer the question. Sometimes the algebraic solution would be much easier. You need to decide if you are going to answer the problem algebraically or use one of these techniques. Now, again, you need to check the answer choices that have not yet been eliminated. So this is very, very important. Now, sometimes if you have fractions, if it tells you like 2/3 of something, if you have fractions in the question, now a good choice would be the least common denominator or a multiple of the LCD. Now, here is a quick question. What do I mean by the least common denominator? If I have these fractions, what do you think? What would be the least common least common denominator?
10.
Exactly. So that would be 10. So if you look at them here, if you multiply them 2 by 5, that would equal 10. We call this the least common denominator, or a multiple of the least common denominator. You want to use the least common denominator because if you use a multiple, that would make the number bigger, right? Now, if you look at these two fractions, what would be the least common denominator?
8.
Nope. That would be a multiple.
Oh, 4.
Yes, that would be a multiple of the least common denominator. Because what do I mean by the least common denominator? It means you can divide. It's like a divider, right? It means 2 divides 4. If you divide 4 by 2, it will equal 2. And if you divide, you can divide both of them by the same number. This is the least common denominator, right? It means, see, if I add them, for example, 4 by 4, that would be 1. And so you have 1 plus 4 divided by 2, that would make it 2, and then 2. So that would be, right? So that's what I call the least common denominator. It's the least common one. Now, sometimes you have a problem that deal with percent. And what do you think the best number to pick when you have percent problems?
Yeah.
That would be 100. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, Selma, can you see the screen? Perfect.
Yeah.
So in percent problems, because it's percent means every 100, so you choose the number 100. Again, you shouldn't pick a negative number like -3, -4 as a possible answer to a grid-in question, right?
Okay. Yeah, there are. Yeah.
Are you familiar with the grid-ins? It was already
Yeah.
a placement test. So you cannot grid a negative number. So if you have a grid-in question, then you cannot pick a negative number. Now, sometimes if your first attempt does not eliminate 3 of the 4 choices, try to choose a number that's of a different type. What do I mean by type? We choose, for example, a positive integer greater than 1, or a positive fraction or decimal between 0 and 1. So fraction is the same like decimal. It's how you write it. So if you say like a fraction like 3 by 10, that would be 0.3, right? And then, or a negative integer less than -1, or a negative fraction or decimal between -1 and 0. Now, if you are picking pairs of numbers, you can try different combinations from 8. So maybe a positive integer greater than 1, and the next one a negative integer less than -1. These are just guidelines. And sometimes maybe you need to break these rules. Like sometimes so quick and easy to plug in 0 and 1 and or 1 that you might do this even though only some of the answer choices get eliminated. Okay? Do you have any questions now?
No.
Perfect.